Okay.
Hey there YouTube, PD Two Finger here with a Maestro fuzz tone. So this is, it says Gibson, Lincolnwood, Illinois, model fz-1b. So this is an old pedal. It was gifted to me by my stepdad who played in like a polka style wedding band. And if you look at it, if you look here, it has the schematic and then it says minus by the ground. Okay, now the thing is, maybe that's because this is germanium transistors in here. It might be. They very well could be silicon, but the fact is it's minus ground. And all of the current pedals, everything that we run is positive ground. So if you were going to connect this to a power supply, like daisy chain it, you would be hard shorting it. Okay, it would blow your fuse or smoke something out. So the way that I chose to get around this, and we'll talk about different ways, because the whole thing that I'm trying to avoid doing is modifying this. I want to try to keep this as stock as possible. So what I did notice was there was a little hole above the amp output jack. There's no input jack. There's this bezel here, and the original cable was gray, which was cut off when I got it. So what we can do, I can show you. We'll go over here on the this Dan Electro battery is a prop. As soon as the video is over, the sunbeam from the dollar store goes back in the battery. So here we have our ground. I'm going to put one lead on the ground, and then I'm going to go to this minus, clearly marked minus side of the battery. And there you go. So it's ground is ground is ground. It's minus ground. And what that tells me is that I got a problem unless I'm going to run this off a battery. And if I run it off a battery, I got a problem because I've been playing guitar for 35 years with pedals that don't run batteries. And this particular one doesn't have an input jack. And I don't want to replace the output jack. As you can see here, it's got these old-fashioned resistors running over it. I could put in a three connector style, a stereo output jack, and then what you would do is use the extra terminal, the ones that are by the ground. You would run the power wire through that, so then when you plugged it in, this part of the cable would make the connection to turn the battery on, and then you would have to try to remember every time you were done playing it to unplug the cable. Now for me, I'm a dummy. I need an LED. And this pedal was designed with a switch on the volume control, but no LED. So ideally, in a perfect world, I would drill a hole in this and put an LED in it. But that kills the resale value for the pedal. Because this is old enough, and I'm probably not going to sell this. Maybe I will. I would like to hand it down to my daughter and think that she would have it, and it would keep going from there to guitar players in the family until maybe it would be worth a real lot of money, and then someone would sell it. That's kind of my thinking on it, but this is just a non-destructive mod. So how I did it, I got the LED was pre-wired. It came out of a VCR. So you can see it already had some shrink boot on there. And then this is like dum-dum. It's just like sticky tack. So this hole was already drilled in there, and the wires just run inside. And the positive wire for the LED runs over to this tab on the back. There's this pot which has a switch in it. So the battery power comes in to the bottom tab, and then when you turn it on, the 9 volts hits this connection here. And this red wire carries the positive 9 volts to the circuit. So I ran the wire for the LED through, trimmed it, and soldered it neatly here to the hot side of the switch, where I could easily remove it. And then I ran the white side, which is the ground, down to the ground connection, the main star ground of the pedal. And then I just cut that. I probably should have cut a little bit more out of it, give it some slack. But and you have to add a current limiting resistor, which is just something to pad down the 9 volts for the LED, or the LED might be too bright, or it might actually blow the LED. It would pop. So this is it's a quick fix. It's a non-destructive. I mean, it took me just a few minutes, but now there's an indicator for me, and I'll notice that, because see, this fuzz, it doesn't really drain. I mean, one could argue that by adding the light, you're going to drain the battery so much faster that it almost disables the mod. But I used a 16K resistor, which is significant. So that means it's going to be less current on this LED. So another way I could have done this is to run, instead of an LED through that hole, would be to run a pair of wires going to an external style 2.1 mil DC jack. They have them, the little plastic thing, almost looks like an external headphone extension or external female jack. And so we would have a little pigtail hanging out with a little guy where you would plug in your regular Boss standard. And then from there, it would travel inside through and I would have a small circuit which would sit in probably the battery tray. And it's a TL7054 or a 7066. These are, it's called it flips the voltage. So positive and negative, let's say this is positive and this is negative. Positive and negative come in, and what comes out is flipped. It's positive and negative. It flips the polarity. So that way we would have no, because see, if I were to just drill a hole in this chassis and then put a jack in there, the jack is grounded, and the same thing would happen because the jack grounds. So you got to really be careful when you're doing this stuff. And what you could do is get a plastic jack where the plus and the minus don't make contact with the chassis. And I have those, but that would mean drilling another hole in it, and just to avoid having a charge pump, that's the name of that circuit, to not have to worry about the charge pump right now and just stick a battery in it. This is what I did. I put the LED in it. So at some point I probably will build a charge pump, and if I end up falling in love with this, I had played through this before and I didn't like it, and I played through it the other day and I really liked it. I used a Strat, and I don't know if if there was something wrong with it before or what, if my other adventures with it, if something was up, but when I tried it out again recently, I thought this was great, and I'm going to want to be using it, and I thought, well, I might as well share this as a video. Some of you guys might have an old fuzz that you might have an fz-1 and you don't want to mod it. So this is a way to at least have an LED on it that's non-destructive, and it's going to remind you to turn your power off when you're done playing it. Because me, I'm gonna shut everything. I'm gonna shut the amp off. I'm gonna shut the power off for the pedals, and then I'm gonna walk away. And then my wife's gonna say, "Hey, the maestro's on," and then I can walk over here and do that, and we're all good. So that was a hopefully non-destructive mod to the Maestro fuzz tone. And oh, come here, I'll show you my new little setup. You want to maybe just shoot this right here. That's part of the that's the rig that I've been looping through, and I got some fuzz boxes on there. There's this one here is a silicone tone bender, but it's got a Systech harmonic energizer on the other side. MXR blue box, Divi Ever Hyperion. Homemade power supply here. This is a 100-watt amp I built with the tone bender front end. This is an 8-knob fuzz. It's called a, is it cattle mutation or Wolf computer. And then this is an EA tremolo with a DOT 250 and a COT 50. I really love that pedal. This is a super fuzz. We got an EQ, 4-band EQ that I built, a booster that I built, K-line overdrive. It's a really good overdrive. People don't like this pedal. I love it, and I use the MT2 setting on it. The metal zone that everyone laughs about. I really love that sound. And then Vico Vibe. This is Jordan Vico Vibe clone Vic Audio. And then this is an ugly face. And then we have we got some stereo volume pedal, expression pedal, input volume pedal, switcheroo box, and then the Ocean Machine, and then here is the JC50, and the other side is this Natco cabinet through this amp that I built. And I've got a JC emulator on the amp force. And it all is powered, everything's powered off of this homemade power supply that I built out of a laptop, a real small laptop power supply. I cut the chassis off and JB welded the metal. It's all shielded like a metal box. And then ran the power wires to a jack mounted in the back. And then ran 7809 voltage regulators with filter caps and screwed those down to the chassis as a heat sink and ran dual jacks with an LED. So there's a pair of 7809s, and I was like, you know, it's only 2 ports, but if I get a heterodyne, I can get fancy and switch some stuff around. And I did get a heterodyne, and I was able to move one thing over one port, and it solved it. So yeah, that's what I've been doing lately, and soon it's going to be recording the new album. So anyway, thank you, and peace.